As the priest told the jury, Lisa was really struggling with this because she loved her job so much. And she was given like the worst ultimatum that anyone could be given from an employer that she loved. You either need to do something that you believe is immoral and against your own sincerely held religious beliefs, using a vaccine developed by fetal cells, aborted fetal cells. You need to choose between that, your religion, and your job. Welcome to another episode of Cases Gone Wild, brought to you by your host, me, John Marko. I've been an attorney for almost 2 decades, and on my show, I bring you some of the craziest, wildest, most insane cases that you've ever heard of from the legal field and across the country. And we have some top caliber guests who've come in from all over the country to be on the show and tell you about their cases. But today, we're going to talk to you about my case and about a recent record-setting verdict that we received in federal court here in Detroit for $12.7 million on behalf of a woman who was discriminated against because of her religion. It's a very important case. You may have seen it on the news. We didn't want to wait to bring you this case gone wild. If you like our show, please share it with your friends. Don't be scared to leave us a review. And as always, you can listen to us on all your favorite platforms and on video on our YouTube channel and on our website. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about this record-setting verdict that myself and my co-counsel, Noah Hurwitz, achieved in federal court in Detroit for a woman by the name of Lisa Domsky. This is the largest vaccine verdict ever obtained in the world, and certainly in the United States, certainly in Michigan, but in the world. And to give you a little background, COVID-19 was a horrible time that a lot of us went through. And in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. 2021, the vaccines started coming out. And my client worked for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan. Her name is Lisa Domsky. And she had worked at Blue Cross and Blue Shield for 37 years and had worked her way up from making $7 an hour as a entry-level position straight out of high school. She didn't go to college. She graduated from Woodhaven High School and went straight to work at Blue Cross to try to start her career. And over the next 38 years, she worked her way up through the ranks at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan to achieve kind of great heights. She had approximately 10 promotions over the years, had just stellar reviews. All of her employers, all of her bosses, different bosses over those 38 years, obviously, said that she was just one of the best employees that they ever had the pleasure to work with. In fact, she so much so that her supervisor at the time that she was terminated from Blue Cross, she asked her to be the godmother of her child. And Blue Cross Blue Shield came down with a vaccine mandate in 2021. They told their employees, you have to get vaccinated or you're going to be fired. And Lisa ended up being terminated because she had religious objections to the vaccine. And so that's what this case was about. And I have to tell you, when my co-counsel, who is a genius attorney, Noah Hurwitz in Ann Arbor, and he kind of pioneered these cases. They obviously took a lot of work. It was kind of a new area of the law. I mean, there's always been vaccine cases, but religious exemption for COVID-19, a lot of attorneys didn't have the courage to take on these cases. Noah did and took a great risk to take on this fight. And he approached me because Lisa Domsky's case was getting ready to go to a jury trial in the federal court right here in downtown Detroit. And so for that federal court, that means that it's not like your county court, right? When we're in federal court, you bring in people from all over the eastern side of Michigan for this particular case. And Noah said, I have these cases. He had about 170 cases against Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And he said, I'd love to bring you in. What do you think? And I have to tell you, I was a little skeptical at first. I'm Catholic. Lisa's also Catholic, as you're going to hear in the story. And I got vaccinated. I did some research, and I saw that the Catholic Church said that it was acceptable for Catholics to get vaccinated if they believed that it was the right thing to do for themselves. There was no prohibition. The church didn't say you have to get vaccinated, but they also said you need to follow what you believe you should do in your conscience. And we encourage people to be safe for others, which can include getting vaccinated in certain circumstances. So I was really skeptical when I was approached to take on this case. But as I sat down with Lisa and I got to know not only her, but some of the other individuals who had really devoted their life to this Blue Cross Corporation. And that's what it is. It's a large corporation. It's an insurance company. It's a health insurance company, but it's a large corporation, over $32 billion a year. And when I heard their stories about how these people like Lisa gave their lives to Blue Cross, they gave their hearts and their souls to Blue Cross, but they weren't willing to give up their faith for Blue Cross. And as a result, Blue Cross made them choose between their career or their conscience. Blue Cross made them choose between their faith and their financial freedom, essentially, their ability to earn a living. And it takes a lot of courage when you have a career, especially like Lisa. Lisa was making about $100,000 a year, and she didn't have a college education. She had started at Blue Cross straight from high school. She had worked her way up to that. She had earned that money. To give that up and to take on financial hurt for your family, I just knew this was a powerful case. This was powerful ideals where I really could dig in and get behind, and I knew I had to help these people. And so with Noah Hurwitz, who was a great co-counsel, and we took on the challenge and we began working on these cases. And Lisa's was the first case that went to trial. And this is a tremendously divisive case because as I selected a jury and I sat down and I thought about this, and I told the jury, I said, this is the hardest jury selection I've ever done in my life. And I've done a lot of hard jury selections, and any jury selection is hard. You have an auto accident case, it's going to be a hard jury selection. But I told the jury, this is like the biggest nightmare Thanksgiving dinner with all your extended relatives, Uncle Joe, Aunt Martha, everybody, and you're talking about the most divisive, some political issues, some really charged issues where people have really strong feelings, and it really tears people apart in terms of where they stand on it. What other more controversial issue that separates us? Abortion, religion, whether it's you want to be religious, you don't want to be religious at all, and everywhere in between, and all the different types of religion. There was religious issues. There was issues about vaccines, which is real divisive. People are very pro-vaccine, people are anti-vaccine, and they're everywhere in between, right? And these issues, discrimination, big issue, big divisive issue, lawsuits in that regard. So this was kind of the soup that we were operating under, and it was tremendously difficult going into this case, and I was honest with the jurors about these potential issues. And so to give you a background about what happened to Lisa. So Lisa started working at Blue Cross Blue Shield in 1984. And Lisa worked at Blue Cross and Blue Shield from 1984. She took off a little time when she had her daughter. And she worked there until she was terminated for not getting vaccinated. So over 38 years. And during that time, Lisa loved Blue Cross and Blue Shield. She devoted a lot of her life to the company. Late nights, she worked weekends. She loved her job, and she was loved by her coworkers and other people. And I want you to know one thing that's important is Lisa is not a judgmental religious person. She's a devoutly religious person, and she has a wonderful life story about how she became religious that I'll share with you, but she's not one of those judgmental religious persons saying, if you don't believe what I do, you're going to hell. I don't want to associate with you. She's truly a caring Catholic, I call it. who puts on, along with her family, she would put on community-based events. They would give up their Thanksgiving. The Domsky family would give up their Thanksgiving to literally put on a Christmas for the homeless and for the less fortunate, where they would donate their own Christmas time and their own money to purchase food and help feed the community and help those who didn't have anybody to share it with. And that's the type of people that they are. And as I got to know them and saw how sincere they were and such wonderful people they were, it just emboldened me to want to help them even more. And it also made me so disgusted as to what Blue Cross and Blue Shield did to these wonderful people who had done nothing wrong their whole lives in terms of their work, and who only tried to follow the rules and do what was best for others and to help their family. Lisa came from a very difficult childhood, and she had a bad mom, an abusive mom, and at one point she even went in the foster care system because her parents weren't able to care for her. But she's a survivor, and one of the reasons that she became religious is she found safety and love in religion. She would escape abuse by going to church. For her, it was a Baptist church at that time. And as she got older, she eventually got married, and her husband, who's a wonderful man by the name of Larry, and they got married, and they got married in the Catholic Church. And Lisa made the decision to convert to Catholicism. And religion always was a very important part of her life. And she tried to follow, the teachings of the church, and she felt strongly about abortion. And I know that's a very controversial, everybody knows abortion is one of the most divisive issues, right? So, but Lisa believed, as the Catholic Church teaches, that abortion's a sin. Okay, and look, whether you agree with that or not, that's not what the case is about. The case isn't, but it's about each individual's out there's right to make an own decision in their own hearts and minds about what they believe. And a corporation, the government, shouldn't be telling individuals what they need to believe in their heart or what they need to believe in their mind. And I firmly believe that. And, I grew up Catholic. My dad's a theology professor, and, I'm not always the best Catholic. There's a lot of rules. But one thing I do believe strongly, and that this case stood for, is everybody out there has a right to choose to believe what they want in their heart, and maybe even believe nothing at all. If you're out there and you want to believe nothing at all, that's your right. Certainly a corporation shouldn't tell you how to believe, what to believe, when to believe, or judge your beliefs and whatever those beliefs are. It's not just about Catholics. It's about any religion. You should have a right to be able to choose it in your heart and your soul what that is. And so this I think was an important ideal that we litigated in this case, because for Lisa, the vaccines were developed using fetal stem cells. And this was not disputed at trial. If you go back to 2021, there was 3 vaccines that were available in Detroit. There was Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna. And Johnson & Johnson used aborted fetal matter in all stages of the vaccine. So they used it to develop it. They used it to produce it. All right, Moderna and Pfizer used it in the production phase, right? So, but again, this case wasn't about fetal cells. And that was one thing that I wanted to make clear to the jury in this case, is that, this case doesn't rise or fall on your objections or comfort with it, but on your ability to make a decision for yourself about what you want to put into your body and if that violates your sincerely held religious beliefs. And so for Lisa, being a devout Catholic, it really troubled her. And she prayed on it. She went to her Catholic priest, who actually was the first witness at trial, was her Catholic priest, who came in, and it was awesome. He came in and his title is the Most Very Reverend, which is like this special title that I didn't even know existed, for Pope John Paul gave him. So he had a beautiful, not just a priest outfit, but it had the purple embroidery and stuff. And he came to trial in that in federal court. And Lisa, and as the priest told the jury, Lisa was really struggling with this because she loved her job so much. And she was given like the worst ultimatum that anyone could be given from an employer that she loved. You either need to do something that you believe is immoral and against your own sincerely held religious beliefs, using a vaccine developed by fetal cells, aborted fetal cells. You need to choose between that, your religion, and your job. And Lisa struggled so much with it when she talked to her priest about it and she was crying. And her priest told her, listen, Lisa, you need to follow your conscience. The Catholic Church said that you are allowed to get vaccinated, even though it doesn't approve of the use of fetal cells. But ultimately, you have to let your conscience be the guide, because for Catholics, that's the Holy Spirit talking through you. And again, look, you don't have to believe this. You may say it's crazy, people have all kind of religious beliefs. And if we look at each other's religious beliefs, you can look at almost any religion out there and say that from your opinion, if it's different, you may think it's crazy, and that's fine. You're allowed to think that. But Lisa was also allowed to have her religious beliefs. And that's so important that our founders put it in the First Amendment. The very First Amendment to our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, number 1 is, guess what? Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of each of us to be able to make our own decisions for ourselves. It was so important. And what really troubled me and that came out in this trial was that Lisa was sincere. There was really no question that she was sincere. This wasn't somebody who's, didn't want to get vaccinated, so she made up some BS excuse so she could avoid following rules. This wasn't somebody who was trying to, not go back to the office or anything like that. Lisa had actually been working from home even before the pandemic started. And then she was an IT specialist, so she worked from home 100% of the time. So this is a woman who's doing her job literally from her home office in her basement. She's not a danger to anyone else. She's not exposing other people to the virus. She's not working in an OR or a nursing home around elderly people or something. And so when Blue Cross rolled out this vaccine mandate, we found out, and it came out at the trial, that prior to rolling out the vaccine mandate and telling all their employees they had to get vaccinated, whether they liked it or not, there was an internal human resources meeting, a secret meeting behind closed doors. And at this meeting was the vice president of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Human Resources. There was a lawyer for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan who had been an employment lawyer for over 40 years. And there was a bunch of people from the HR staff. And at this closed door meeting, one of the HR people felt uncomfortable with what was being said, and she decided to start recording it on her phone. And we're very glad that she did, because it was revealed that during this meeting, which was October 12th of 2021, that the vice president of human resources said, we're going to be rolling out this vaccine requirement for all of our employees, and we're going to get religious accommodation requests. In other words, we're going to get people that say this vaccine requirement conflicts with their religion. And as an HR professional and having the lawyers there, they know that you can't force, you have to provide religious exemptions and accommodations to your employees. Let's say somebody says, I want to wear a yarmulke. You're Jewish. I need to wear a yarmulke. Let's say your company has a policy, no headwear. No, you can't wear headwear. And there's a famous case involving Abercrombie and Fitch, the clothing store in the mall, where someone wore a headscarf, so a little different, a Muslim person. Abercrombie said, nope, we have a policy for no headgear. Because religion is so important and the freedom to make religious choices that don't hurt other people, the law says that you have to provide an accommodation for people who have sincere religious beliefs, if they're sincere, right? So when Blue Cross rolled this out, they knew that there was going to be religious objections. Some from people who objected to the use of fetal material. Some religions, such as Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't believe in medical treatment whatsoever. And other religions as well, like they're against blood transfusions and all kinds of specific medical treatment. There's all kinds of religions that have beliefs that could affect somebody's ability religiously to get the vaccine, whether you agree with it or not. And so Blue Cross had this secret meeting where they said, we're not going to approve all these religious accommodations. They said, we're going to have this lawyer basically conduct depositions, which is a legal word for cross-examination, which is normally involved in a lawsuit, of employees who are requesting these religious accommodations. So think about that. Why would your employer, before they even know what you're going to say, we're going to be denying a lot of these religious accommodations? Why would your employer be referring to the interview process of these people, of their employees who are applying for these accommodations, as like a litigation cross-examination? It's like almost treating them like the enemy. And during this interview, people in the HR department said, ooh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Can we watch? I mean, imagine that. These are people's lives on the line, and your employer's saying this is going to be fun to cross-examine people who could be losing their jobs, who could be losing their ability to support their family, their loved ones, to support themselves, their kids. And it was really disgusting to me. And they also said, this lawyer said in this meeting, one of the employees asked, well, can we sit in and watch you interview employees for these religious exemptions? And the lawyer said, no, you can't. We don't want any witnesses. Now, that's crazy, right? Because who doesn't want witnesses around? Usually it's the criminals who are doing things that are criminal so they don't get caught. The good guys, if you're the victim of a crime, you want as many witnesses as you can have around. So this all came out at trial. This was October 12th. They had this closed door meeting, and they don't know it's being recorded. And this comes out. And then what they did was they made all their people who are applying for an interview go through a questionnaire process, a 12-question, I believe it was, online thing, and then they could submit a statement. And they could say why they had a religious objection to get vaccinated. And in their statement, they were asked, give us the name of your priest or your spiritual advisor or whatever, and we're going to look at that, and then we're going to make a decision. The whole process, the jury found essentially amounted to a sham. They interviewed these individuals. The interviews lasted for 15 minutes. Lisa had just buried a family member who had died the day before her interview. She went forward with the interview anyways because Blue Cross said you have to do it. So Lisa went forward with her interview, and at the beginning of the interview, they tell her, look, this interview is completely voluntary. It's up to you to participate. It's 100% voluntary. And Lisa said, great. If it's voluntary, I already wrote you a written statement. Can I just rely on that? And the interviewer said, that's fine. And that was it. They said, you want to rely on your written statement? Quote, that's fine. That was it. Within 24 hours later, they denied a religious accommodation. And they said, you have to get vaccinated or you're going to be terminated from your job. There's no appeal process. There's no second chances. They didn't ask for more information. They never even called their priest, who she had given the information for, or write him an email to say, hey, Father, is this lady legit? They never told her, hey, we have doubts about your religious accommodation request. They did this few minutes interview, 5-minute interview, and then they said, you got to get vaccinated or you're terminated. What else was troubling is these interviews were conducted by a high-level human resources person and a lawyer. So it's a lawyer and an HR person versus an employee who had been there for 38 years, who didn't have union representative there, who didn't have her own ability to bring a lawyer or other representative. The whole process was stacked, and the whole process was a sham. And when Lisa got that, she had one of the most tough decisions in her life to make, which was, do I want to do something that violates my sincerely held religious beliefs, whether you agree with them or not? Those were her beliefs. Or do I want to keep my job? And she gave up her job that she loved, that she had made close to $100,000 a year, working her way up from making $7 an hour in 1984, fresh out of high school. And this devastated her and her family. And what came out at trial was like very disturbing. You know, it turned out that the interviewer for Lisa said that he did over 100 interviews and he never called a single spiritual advisor for these people, never called one priest. You would think that after 38 years of working at a company, after going above and beyond and giving it your all, your employer could take a couple minutes to make a phone call or send an email to your priest to do their background. You would think after 38 years, an employer could say, hey, employee, we need more information. We have some concerns. What you did isn't enough. But that's it. She got a half a page form letter in the mail from the vice president of human resources, the same vice president that was on a recording saying, we're not going to accept all these accommodation requests, religious accommodation requests, before they even got them, saying, you're terminated, not even so much as a thank you, box up all your belongings and send them back. And so it was really disturbing how callous a $32.8 billion insurance corporation had made, especially the same year that Lisa was fired. Their CEO made over $16 million, including bonuses. And I just think it left a bad taste in people's mouths. And I'm really thankful for the jury because we had a very diverse group of jurors. We had some jurors who had religious beliefs of themselves, who had shared similar beliefs as Lisa. But we also had jurors who were on the other side of the spectrum. We had pro-choice jurors who believed that my body, my choice. And that's their ability to believe that is their ability, just like it was Lisa's ability to believe what she wanted to believe. And so it was wonderful to see these people come together and unite on this idea that we may not agree with everything that Lisa did. We may not have made the same decisions ourselves, but it wasn't our choice to make. It was Lisa's choice. And it sure as hell wasn't a corporation's choice to make for an individual. And that can unite us right now. I mean, we're a divided country. We have divisions over politics. We have divisions over these tough issues, religion, abortion, discrimination. But Voltaire said, okay, famous philosopher said, I may not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to my death your right to say it. And that's what this case was about. And so to see these jurors who had differing views, who had diverse backgrounds, one of the jurors was a Sikh, which is obviously a very different religion than Catholicism. We had one of the jurors who was pro-vaccine or who had been vaccinated and believed that it was a smart thing to do. And we had jurors who felt the other way. We had jurors everywhere in between. And so to have these individuals come together but stand up for a higher ideal, the right of each individual to make their own decision free from a corporation, as long as they're not hurting other people, this was justice system at work. I'm not, look, every verdict that I have is meaningful. Everybody I help is meaningful and in its own way. But this was particularly meaningful in a constitutional way to say that this goes beyond one person. This goes to everybody's ability, everybody's right. And so it was a wonderful result. We got $12.7 million as a verdict. Part of that was to send a message to Blue Cross that what you did was not acceptable, it was illegal, it was wrong, and that this can't happen again. And so I'm so thankful for the jury. I'm thankful to my co-counsel, Noah Hurwitz, and his entire team. I'm thankful to my team here at Marko Law. And we have 169 other cases that we're working on against Blue Cross and Blue Shield for similar people whose literally their lives were destroyed. And the energy in the courtroom in this case was unlike a lot of cases that I've done. Every day the courtroom was full. In fact, the courtroom was so full on some days, and this is a federal courtroom, guys. This isn't like a small courtroom. This is a big federal courtroom. And it was so full that there was no room for people to sit. And at one point, the judge said, you have to wait out in the hall until a seat opens up. I mean, it was like something you see on TV, right? Where like Johnny Depp trial or something, or, O.J. Simpson, you got to get a ticket to go to the courtroom because other people who had their lives ruined wanted to be there and support Lisa and to be there for her because she was the one that was the first one who stood up and had to go through this process, which is a tough process. The other side had at least 6 lawyers, I believe. And, it's like David versus Goliath. If we want to go biblical on this religious freedoms case, we'll go Old Testament. It was David versus Goliath, and David won. And so I wanted to tell you guys about this case. It's a meaningful case. I know we have a lot of fun on this show. We talk about crazy cases and we laugh a lot. But this case was very important. I wanted to have a special edition to talk to you about it because from our hearts and souls, what we do here can be fun. It can be comical sometimes. It can be entertaining, but it's also very meaningful. And it's meaningful not just to a single human being, but it can be meaningful to the community at large. And that's why I love what we do. I'm always never going to stop fighting for what's right. Even if I don't always agree, I'm going to fight for everybody's rights to be able to have their constitutional rights, whether it's religion, right to be free from discrimination, your right to not have something taken away from you by the government, by a corporation, or by bad guys. And so that's what this case is about. So thanks for listening. I know we had a little more somber day here than we usually do, but I wanted to bring this to you. If you want to learn more about this case, you can Google it. It's all over just about every major news network in the country and the world right now. And we're proud to have been a part of it. Thank you to the jury. Thank you to Noah Hurwitz. If you like us, you need help, come to us, markolaw.com, or give us a call, 833-MARKO-LAW. We'll see you in another 2 weeks, back to our normal, hopefully a little more lighthearted episode of Cases Gone Wild.